Hi everyone, hope you're all doing really well and welcome to the Nostalgia Book Tag. I was decided to do this by Owen over at Owen Edwards. I definitely recommend his channel if you haven't already checked it out. I'll leave a link to it down in the description as well as a link to his version of this video. He does really great videos and reads a lot of classic fantasy, which I find quite interesting, so definitely go and check out his channel. And yeah, this is a tag that is all about nostalgia and books you have nostalgia for, and yeah, just interesting prompts that I'm quite looking forward to doing. Without any further ado, let's get into the prompts. Number one is, what is the oldest book from your life that you still own? This one I'm finding really difficult to try and remember because I'm in my university flat and most of the books I have here are ones that I have just bought, you know, whilst I was here. So all my older books are at my dad's or at my mum's in her attic. So, I mean, we've got the copies of The Famous Five and Secret Seven by Enid Blyton, but those were my mum's copies, so they're from like the 70s. But I don't know if that counts because they're technically not mine, they're technically my mum's, even though I read them loads when I was younger. We also have a copy of The Very Hungry Caterpillar lying around somewhere. I'm fairly sure that's got to be at least 20 years old. As well as stuff like Ant and Bee and the Rainbow, which I believe used to belong to my uncle. So that's got to be about 50 years old now, maybe 40. So yeah, I think those are kind of like the oldest books that we have. But yeah, kids' books mostly. I don't think we have any like novels or anything that are quite old. I think that's just sort of kids' books that just have, you know, aged with the people that they were given to. Number two is First Love Library book, and that has got to be, I think, Dragon Rider by Cornelia Funk. This is a book that was in my school library, and that's the first one I really have memories of checking out again and again and again because I loved that book when I was younger, and it was one of the first sort of big kind of books that I read after like Aragon and stuff because I had a bit of a dragon phase when I was around 12. So yeah, I'd have to say Dragon Rider is one that I used to take out from the library all the time. Number three is a book given to you. For that, I'm going with The Chronicles of Ancient Darkness. This is an omnibus sort of version that my dad gave me, so it's got Wolfbrother, Spirit Walker and Soul Eater in it. And I love this series, like I still read this and reread it to this day. And it was one my dad gave me for my birthday or for Christmas or something, and I just remember like, it sat on my shelf for ages because I was like, oh, I'm not sure if I'm interested, and I read it, and now it's like one of my favourite books of all time. So yeah, so thanks to my dad for getting me this because I love this series, and if you haven't read it, you should. Number four is a book recommended to you. And for this I'm going to go with The Woman in White by Wilkie Collins. This is a classic book and it's a sort of like detective fiction sort of novel. And I remember getting this recommended to me by my mum's friend, because we used to go around and visit these friends of ours who had lived in the small village where I was from. Then they'd moved to like Azerbaijan with their dad's job, and then they were back in Scotland, so we sort of reconnected with them when they got back. And we used to go around sort of every now and again, you know, we were friends with the two guys who were the same age as me and my sister, and my mum was friends with their mum. But I sort of got to a point where sometimes I found that the two guys and my sister would sort of be messing around and being quite immature and kind of annoying, and I didn't really like enjoy hanging out with them, so I used to go through and just talk to my mum and her friend. And we got talking about books one day because it was around the time in school when we were doing, I think, The Woman in Black and doing the film and things as a sort of like thing for English. And I think we were talking about that, and then she goes, oh well, completely unrelated but they have similar titles, I really recommend The Woman in White. And she was the first one to really tell me about this book and about, you know, Count Fosco being this incredibly sort of sinister character that you don't know whether to trust, and with great characters like Marion Halcombe and Walter Hartwright and stuff, and it being like just a really good book. And yeah, so on her recommendation I went and I picked it up, and it's one of my all-time favourite books. It is one that I have read and reread so many times. Despite the fact that it's a really big book, do not let this copy fool you. This is a tiny little special edition. Yeah, I just absolutely love this book, and I'm very grateful for her recommending it to me. So thanks so much. And if you haven't read The Woman in White, I highly recommend it. Number five is a buddy read. I have not actually done that many buddy reads. I really feel I should because people on BookTube are always doing them. But the only buddy read I've technically really done is Prior of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon, which was a unofficial sort of buddy read on the Wizardly Duo Discord, which is a Discord that is by Andrew's Wizardly Reads and Nico's Book Reviews. It's a really great community, and they have like buddy reads that they do every month, but then they also will sometimes set up channels for like unofficial buddy reads if like enough people in the Discord have expressed an interest, and Priory of the Orange Tree was one of them. So I joined in on that one because I knew I wanted to read Priory, but it's a huge book, so I knew if I didn't like have people to read it with, I probably wouldn't read it. So yeah, I do have a review for Priory of the Orange Tree coming out, but it is currently sitting at about 2,000 words long, and I'm still writing it. I have a lot to say, apparently, so that's hopefully going to be coming out next week, but I'm really busy at the moment, so I'm hoping to be able to get that drafted and then filmed later this week, but we'll see. But yeah, so that'll have to be my answer for that one, is Priory of the Orange Tree. Number 6 is a book introduced to you in school. So I have a couple answers to these ones because I actually, when thinking back, I actually had quite some really interesting books that we read, especially in primary school, just for like our reading sort of abilities. The first one that I remember is one called Puzzle Ring. I can't remember who it's by, but I'll leave the cover there so you can see the author's name. And this is a really fun sort of like fantasy sort of story about this girl who, her and her friends, I think it is, have to go into like fairyland and find the different parts of this ring that all fits together, and then I can't remember why they have to do that. I'm sure it'll be like, you know, stop the dark person or something like that. But I remember just loving that book, and I really want to go back and reread it and just like remind myself of what happens with that series, with that book, because yeah, I remember just reading it and just really loving it. And then another one that I got introduced to in school was Hitler's Canary by Sandy Toksvig. Now this was one that we read in primary 7, so you're about 11, 12 kind of in that school year. In Scotland it's the last one of primary school before you then move up into the secondary school. And yeah, because we were sort of doing a lot about World War II and stuff, and Hitler's Canary is set in Denmark, and it's about this boy whose friend is Jewish, and then obviously when the Germans come in and start to occupy Denmark, his friend needs to try and get out, and they sort of like, I can't even remember what happens, but that's like the basic premise, that's sort of the general idea. And yeah, I just remember, I've still got that book, it's out to my dad's again, like most of my old books, and I really want to reread it because I remember absolutely loving it. I also really like Sandy Toksvig, and yeah, it was just a really great book, and it was just so nice to have like a good book that we read in school, because a lot of the books that we read in school were kind of shit, but Puzzle Ring and Hitler's Canary are definitely standouts for ones that I absolutely loved. Number 7 is genre fiction that inspires nostalgia. I don't really know, I'd have to say maybe middle grade or kids books, obviously because like they're nostalgic when I was younger, and I guess perhaps like that sort of YA dystopian sort of phase that YA had, you know, background when Hunger Games and stuff was all popular. I mean, I recently read The Bone Season by Samantha Shannon. I read that last year, and it was so funny reading it now. It's so tropey for what was going on at the time, and like I can imagine, like I would have loved it at the time I think, but reading it now it's just like, oh my god, this like belongs in like the early 2000s. Why am I reading this now? And it just sort of, I mean, I did enjoy it, but it's not one that I would like continue the series with or anything like that. But I do remember just reading it and being like, just having that nostalgia for all those books that I used to read that were just like this one and have all the same tropes and all the same sort of ideas and things. Yeah, so I guess sort of like the sort of dystopian YA genre that you all know exactly what I'm talking about. That sort of kind of inspires a bit of nostalgia for me. Number 8 is a literary work that inspires nostalgia. I kind of don't understand exactly what this question means, because is it just like a book? Is that what it means by literary work? So yeah, but anything by Michael Morpurgo. So Why the Whales Came, Listen to the Moon, Kansuki's Kingdom, War Horse. I used to read a shit ton of Michael Morpurgo when I was younger, and especially Why the Whales Came, that was one that I had for a long time, and I like read and reread it countless times. And I just when I was thinking of this and I started looking at Michael Morpurgo books, I just like was just filled with so much nostalgia for like, I completely forgot about Kansuki's Kingdom. That's actually another one that I read in school, and yeah, like I just loved his books when I was younger. They're just so, even within themselves are nostalgic sorts of things, you know, they're sort of nostalgic for different time periods and nostalgic for, you know, adventure or something. Like, I don't know, there's something so magical about his books that I just loved reading when I was younger. And I also have this really nice copy of War Horse that's got all these like gorgeous watercolour illustrations. Again, I don't know what's happened to that copy. It's either in my mum's attic or it's out in my dad's again. But yeah, When I was just like looking this up and I was reminding myself of all those books, I was just like, oh my god, how could I have forgotten about Michael Morpurgo, because I used to read his books all the time. And number 9 is a spiritual text that inspires nostalgia. I don't think I've ever read a spiritual text. But that's it for this nostalgia book tag. Obviously at this point I'm supposed to tag people, but I'm a little bit busy this week, so I have not sat down and found people to tag. So I will leave this as an open tag if you want to do this tag. God, count how many times I just said the word tag in the last 30 seconds. Fucking hell. If you want to do this, definitely just take this as your sign that you can do it, and definitely let me know if you do decide to do it. I would love to see your answers. What do you think of my answers? What are some books that inspire nostalgia for you? Definitely let me know down in the comments below, as well as just, you know, what are your answers to these prompts? If you don't want to do a video but would like to answer them, put them in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. If you've reached the end of this video, thank you so much for watching. Feel free to leave a like and to subscribe. I try to post twice a week. Usually on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but I'm thinking of maybe changing that since I will be going back to university in 2 weeks, and I have a sports club that I'm actively involved in, and that's going to be taking up a lot of my time going now, so it might be sort of later in the week so that I like just having a couple of extra days to get things edited and uploaded. Go and check out Owen Edwards' channel. I will leave a link to it down below, and yeah, but thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time.